And for the slicers out there, just go straight to this drill.
Okay.
Look at that change in path. That's honestly, guys, genuinely one of the best cues to how to set up I've ever seen. All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Great day for us in here. We have a very, very special guest, my great friend, Mr. Scott Cowx.
Thanks for having me.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Those of you who have followed us on the old TXG days on the old channel will know Mr. Cowx very, very well. But for those who are newer to the channel and have just found us, Scott and I have been friends for a long, long time, worked very closely. You taught a lot of your students at our old facility in Mississauga, and you've helped me a lot with my swing over the years. Why don't you just a couple of minutes, or not even a couple of minutes, a minute or so, just tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Yeah, I'm getting old now. Been a PGA of Canada member now 31 years. Wide gamut of different facilities I've been at. Most notably, I was at Hamilton Golf Country Club for 15 years. Been up at the Pulpit Club, just north of the city now, into year 6 now.
Wow, is it already?
Yes, it's going quick. It's going real quick. So, really enjoying my time there. Great team of people there, and I'm blessed at this point in my career that I get to do a lot of kind of little projects, a lot of online business, a lot of tour player business, as well as obviously satisfying the members, at the Pulpit Club. So, really enjoy this. I would say that you could call me a mechanic. Yeah. Right. That's generally what I'm best at, I guess, would be more the mechanical, technical parts of the golf swing and so on. So that's what we're here for today.
Love it. Well, I think I'm going to snag you for a podcast one day, so we'll save the full story for that. So, I was told about Scott not long after I probably first moved to Canada, and I think sort of my mindset, analytical mindset in the Bay, I think people were like, you have to meet Scott Cowx. You guys will get on well, and they were right. We have done. So what we're going to dive into today, Cowx, we're going to do some stuff on some of the more anatomical topics of the golf swing. Again, that really is your specialty. I don't think anyone breaks down the anatomy side on the implications of cause and effect any better than you in the game. You've taught me so much about different things in terms of how we set up, why we create certain shot patterns by how we set up. You guys will have all heard a lot of the basics, a lot of the kind of bar tips that get given out, but you'll never have heard it like this. And today we're going to talk specifically on the grip. So
perfect.
Yeah, why don't I dive in on there? Let's rip mine apart, and we can talk through some of the things that I could or may not see from the type of grip I have.
Right.
Okay. All right, so I'll just take my normal grip, normal setup. That's pretty much what I would do right there.
Okay, so one of the things that we want to really understand is that your grip is really, changing the forces that you're applying to the club itself. So the orientation of the joints is going to be very powerful to influence what we want to have happen later on to the golf club. I mean, most of our golfers are, let's say, slicers of the golf ball, a lot of them. So we can set up ourselves here to make it, a little bit more of an intended draw by understanding where those joints need to be placed. So when you go ahead and set up here, there's actually 6 parts of what I would call the grip setup. And we've got upper arms, we've got lower arms, even collarbone a little bit on both sides, as well as what the hands themselves are doing. We've also got options, overlap and interlock and baseball grip, and we've got some different things we can do there. But we really want to try and create a scenario where all of the joints are lined up for success. Right? So if we go ahead and set you up again, for most golfers, and I would say this is the most common thing I do in all of my lessons, if we watch a player like a Xander Schauffele, he's got a beautiful, beautiful setup. Push draw mechanics. That's a great model for most of our golfers on the channel to follow. We'll also talk about some of the fade orientations here in a minute. But let's get you set up kind of a little bit like Xander would, which would be the upper arm of the left arm is going to be slightly internally rotated. Okay.
And we were chatting about this earlier because I think And this can be a little bit of knock on from maybe some training aids that people get into. I know I get into doing some stuff with like smart ball and things like that and bringing those elbows together. But as you were explaining to me, what that can lead to is the orientation of your arms can lead to ripple effect or knock-on effect later on down in the swing.
Absolutely. So we're going to internally rotate this upper arm, this bicep, into the chest slightly so that the inside of the pit of your elbow points about 45 degrees to the right of the golf ball.
So that's now sort of out there.
Okay. To do that, for a lot of golfers, we actually have to create a little bit of what we call protraction or slight forward with the collarbone. This gets the arm hanging a little bit more in front of the chest.
Yeah.
We never want to get this on the side of the chest.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
The side of the chest setup actually externally rotates the arm. Okay. So we're going to get this a little bit more in front of the chest by protracting the collarbone.
Right.
From there, the radial bone, which runs from the base of the wrist here, kind of through here, kind of the muscle here that sits on top of your forearm, we're also going to internally rotate that a little bit.
Okay.
Now, if we do that, the base of the radial bone, there's a ligament that runs up your thumb and your index finger. There's a little hole in between that called the snuff box.
There's a new one I learned today. I love that.
There you go. That's old school.
Got to make sure my snuff box is in alignment.
You got to make sure your snuff box is on the right-hand side of the grip.
Yeah.
Okay. And if it is, what happens is all of these joints are now pre-aligned, slightly internally rotated.
Yep.
Now, because there's inertia in the system or centrifugal force in the system, this is going to want to pull this into this position at impact, where the lead wrist is going to be fairly flat, the radial bone is on top, this has turned slightly, upper arm will have turned very slightly, but now we have compression, we have forward shaft lean with a square club face, okay? And all that was set up just by getting the lead side, okay? Now, if we go ahead and put that back down, we look at the trail side, okay? We also have those elements. Trail side's a little bit different. We're going to get that grip on there. We'll talk about the grip itself in a moment. But basically, you've got a wonderful grip. Your lead thumb fits right in the heel pad between these two pads on your right hand, okay? Basically follows the lifeline of this. So I like players to make a butterfly, right? Make a little butterfly, put the heel pad against that thumb. That's a great way to learn how to put the right hand on the club. So when you do that, the radial bone here kind of runs straight up the top here, okay? A little bit more this way. The inside of your elbow kind of points toward, let's say, the camera here or the golf ball. So we have 45 internally rotated on the left. We've got 0, we'll call that 0 on the right. Now, that positions the inside of the elbow about 1 to 2 finger widths away from your belly button. Now, that's going to help us create shaft lean and let's say, the handle a little bit more forward at impact. So for all of you that like to scoop it a little bit, maybe get the handle back a little bit at impact, where that right elbow is at setup has a lot to do with where it will be at impact.
Right.
Okay. Now, from that position, why don't we have you hit a couple of shots here, okay? And we'll just monitor that, and you can give us some feedback on what that feels like.
It's interesting. It feels very strong. It feels very strong impact, and obviously shut the face down there. But I think when I get a feeling for that being more left, and I can get the handle into a position that manages the face a little bit better.
Correct.
I mean, that's going to be really strong from a compression standpoint.
Well, and that's where we see the smash factor through the roof.
Yeah.
Right? We have 1.42 smash factor on a 7-iron here, which is very, very high. Club path was 2.6. Face was a little bit close to the path, but that's to be expected because we did set up a draw alignment there. Okay, let's try that one more time with the draw setup. We'll get that lead side, internal, snuff box, collarbone. Okay, our butterfly grip here, elbow. This time when you swing, I want you to try and feel like this doesn't move very far from that. Okay. All the way back, all the way through. Okay. Okay, almost. Club path 2.8.
Yeah, similar club path, just a little bit of a different face position.
Yeah, as I change your right elbow, this is changing the impact interval. So as I move this right elbow, this works exactly like a door hinge.
Yeah.
So as I position the door hinge more in front of me, I'm making this square up later.
Yeah.
As I position the elbow more this way, I'm making it square up earlier. So each one of us has, also a slide component in the pelvis that we're managing this as well. but there comes a physical location in space where we want that arm to be able to release.
Yeah.
Okay, and we want to get it into a position. I mean, as a good player, you know the best feel in golf is to be able to hit it really hard, but not hook it. Right? And that's what we're all looking for, is kind of that point of no return where we get that elbow into that position. We can really let it go.
Totally.
Okay. Let's try that one more time. But that was good. We kept that elbow a little bit more in front of you there, Ian. And as a result, that changed that interval. Technically was a touch late on that one, even though the path was the same. Okay. So lead arm, excellent. Wonderful. That'll work. Now, how'd that feel?
Nice.
Okay.
Really nice.
So compressed, little bit of a draw shape on that one. Again, club path sitting around 2, right? And then our face to path was a little bit less on that one. Obviously, a very straight shot, just falling a hair left. Okay. When I work with my tour players, you know, we try, if we can, never to hit it straight, because straight's a double negative. We don't know which way it's going to curve in the air. Now, some players prefer more curvature, some players a little bit less, okay? But they do like to see the ball fall in one direction, because at least then they know which way it's not going to fall, right? So if my ball curves a little too much or a little too little, at least I know it's moving in the correct direction, right? So whether that spin axis number is going to be 5 or 2 or whatever that number is, there's a certain amount of curve on the ball that you like to see. And some players, like I said, like to see more curvature. Some players, like this one, would be very, very straight. Okay. So let's try one more, then we'll kind of set you up for fade. Okay. And for the watcher here, I think a good analogy, what we're doing is like taking a steering wheel and turning that steering wheel maybe 10 degrees to the right, and then putting our grip on there. And we can see that my whole trail side is lower than the lead side. Well, this is now encouraging this right side to push from underneath, if you want to call it that. So for those of you that hit slices where the club's coming the other way, having some feelings in your swing of the right arm pushing from underneath is going to help drive some supination, drive some squaring, and hopefully get rid of some weak fades.
That's probably the one thing in this video I would love for you guys to take away, is that what we're talking about here and how we set the body up, how we create this setup, like Scott says, like a steering wheel, we're sort of loading these joints in a way that create like a spring effect that as soon as we add force, we're going to go the other way. So that's why if we're set up a little bit, you know, in that traditional slice or fader, you know, we've got sort of that sort of long right arm set up a little bit open. What's the first thing as soon as you add force? Boom, you're going to go that way. Face goes right, you're going to end up in a really weak position. So, you know, I really hope you guys can take that away, that there's a spring-like effect that happens when we add that force.
Yes, the problem is all golf swings have inertia, have centrifugal force in them. So that force we can use to help us square the face. Or in some ways, if I don't want to hook it, perhaps, or draw it, I can use that inertia in the opposite direction. Okay, so let's try one more draw, and then we'll kind of go through maybe some of the fade setup ideas.
Love it.
Again, on tour, I really like Tommy Fleetwood setup. I really like Xander Schauffele's setup. You know, some of the best push drawers in the world with those two fellows. You'll see exactly this type of an arm setup. Keep that. Only thought is keep the elbow close. Go ahead and hit it hard. A little push on that one. But the interesting thing is this would also show up a little bit in our low point valley or attack angle. You see how it's getting a little bit more forward or a little bit more down because of where I position your right elbow, right? My door hinge is now expanding this way into the golf shot as opposed to being trapped back here where it's going to be a little bit more scoopy. Okay, let's hit maybe one more. Let's do, we're going to call this max draw. So I'm going to add one other element to this. Okay, so we're going to get the same setup with the grip. We're going to get that same right arm. But if I wanted max draw, we're going to position the handle a little bit more forward. We're going to move the ball one ball back. We're going to soften this toward the right hip. Now, you feel how your eye line, Ian's now way over here.
Looking at that right side.
Your body will follow your eye line. It will follow your neck tilts. Now, the key is trust that. Don't try and change it. Okay? See a little more pronounced draw.
Interesting. That was very different. Look at that change in path.
Right. Club path went from 2 to 6 just by altering the setup with the ball position, the handle position, the elbow position. Okay? Why don't we try one more like
Sure.
that? Okay? Might actually need the face slightly open at setup just to get the start line a little more right, because we are now playing a lot more curvature on this.
And for the slicers out there, I mean, this is like, just go straight to this
Gold.
drill.
Absolutely.
Just go straight to like load that left arm internally, get that right elbow sitting soft, kind of almost just on top of between the belly button and the right hip, almost in that nice position.
And we really want to trust, like this is going to feel awkward because I've now changed your GPS system on where the world is.
Totally.
Right? Our eye line has shifted quite a bit to the right. Yeah. The key is for a lot of our slicing golfers, they will change their eye line on the way down. Yeah. So the key is trust that eye line, keep the eye line, and we're going to see that path move quite a bit more to the right.
So handle forward, ball position back.
Keep the eye line, keep the elbow in and soft, and go ahead and swing on those lines. Really good. Really good.
A little bit of the push with the launch direction, but
we notice
spin axis tilt for days.
Absolutely. 12.9 on the spin axis. Much stronger draw, right? Face to path. Look at the club path. 7. Face to path was 7 degrees. Now, for some of our players, it's going to be too much draw, right? They're not going to like that much curvature. But for some of our golfers that are slicers, this will feel more powerful than probably any shot they've ever hit.
100%.
Okay, so this would be max draw setup.
Love that.
By getting the grip and the arm structure in a certain way. Okay.
Slicers, that is gold.
Okay. Now let's do the opposite.
Okay.
Let's talk about the player that maybe is a little bit too hooky, maybe a little flippy, a little bit overdraw. What are some of the ideas that we can do with that player? Okay. So if we look at the same elements, we're going to leave the grip alone for now. Okay. We do have some options. We could change the actual hand position on there, but for now we're going to leave it alone for a minute. But go ahead and set up. Okay. So the trick with this one is in our draw setup, we had the lead arm internally rotated. Trail arm was externally rotated. But for fade players, what we're going to do is we're going to feel a little squeeze that they're both externally rotated. Now, you can notice how the space between your forearms got smaller. There's more of a squeeze here. Now, generally, I like players, if they're going to do this, to have a stronger grip. Because this is going to open the face on the way down. I don't want you to scoop it to hit a fade. Right? I want you to actually be able to turn. So just by changing this, getting the bicep more outward, getting this radial bone starting more over here, this arm at impact, let's show them impact, is going to want to go this way and internally rotate. So now, because I have a strong grip, I've got some forward shaft lean, but the face to path should be a little bit more open here. Okay. So we're also going to get, very good, we're going to move the ball one ball forward, okay, and keep the squeeze. Okay, so the setup here, all we're going to do is right before you take it back, Ian, I just want you to give it a little push together and then take it back and hit it.
And who's the famous player who does that?
John Rahm does a great job of it. Rory McIlroy actually does that a little bit as well, even though he likes to hit different shots, but maybe a little bit more on the draw side of the spectrum. His eye tilts are a little bit more to the right for Rory, but he does have some fade elements in his setup. And you'll see both those players right before they take it back, kind of squeeze those elbows together. Okay, and that just externally rotates that lead arm, okay, but this is going to feel very difficult to make the club face go left.
So we just flip that launch direction, spin axis around a little bit, keep a really nice strike on it.
Yeah. The good news is you're trainable. That was great.
that wasn't bad.
But you see how we're changing your golf swing without really changing your golf swing. I'm just manipulating your setup to create and use those forces of inertia.
That's the big thing
to be able to do this.
Yeah, you know, like changing your golf swing can take a long, long time. Have a fairly neutral golf swing, which is not a bad baseline to start from, and it's really good to see how easily you can manipulate it either side. I mean, that couldn't have been any easier.
When I demonstrate these very principles, generally I'll get somewhere around a 15-degree difference in path between max draw and max fade. Okay. Now, for most players, if we could move it within that spectrum, you'd solve a lot of the world's ills.
Absolutely.
Right? For a lot of our golfers, setting up more toward the max draw side of the spectrum. The other thing that we have to realize is every day we wake up with a different body. Right? Some days you feel good, some days you don't feel so good. Your rotational mounts will change. You know, your grip pressure sometimes changes. So if we understand how to manipulate the setup, we can go and warm up before a round of golf and just kind of figure out, what do I need to do today to get the ball to be kind of an acceptable ball flight? There might be days where I feel like I'm not moving very well. I'm going to set up more toward the max draw side of the spectrum. Okay, maybe I'm feeling really limber. It's 35 degrees outside, midsummer day, and I'm overdrawing it. I may try and set up a little bit more fade biased. Okay, but even on the golf course, shot to shot, if I've got out of bounds left, I might set up like we just did, and have that little fade working away from the out of bounds, and vice versa. Obviously, out of bounds right, perhaps I would do the draw away from that, just to sort of guarantee that I don't go right. So you can use this as a vehicle to play golf with, let alone, you know, making this a stock shot. One thing I think that players need to realize is that when tour players play golf, you know, they do have stock shots. However, they are constantly adapting to the situation at hand. If they've got a wind coming out of the right or wind coming out of the left, you know, a lot of times they're holding the wind and curving it into the wind. So having this idea of being able to be adaptable is a really, really important skill as a great player.
One of the things I loved about those two patterns, if you like, or ball flights, the club head speed was identical on both of them. So it wasn't like I throttled back to hit the fade. I still swung exactly the same commitment and was able to get that. When I saw that launch direction left and seeing the spin axis right, I'm like, well, that's the dream come true for a fader.
Right.
Not having to throttle back in order to manage that club face open to your path.
Correct. So in this case, when we analyze that, right, I didn't let you weaken the grip, which is everyone's go-to.
Right.
I don't want to hook it.
Yeah.
But the problem is when I weaken the grip, I'm going to hit a push slice, right, or a push cut. Now that launch direction is going to be more to the right. So by strengthening your grip, I was able to get that launch direction slightly left of target.
Yeah.
And then because the arm orientation was working this way at impact, the face to path was still going to be a little bit open to get that little bit of a fade. Okay, now you did such a great job on that one. Let's see if you can do it one more time. But this
I thought you would have let me off the hook there and just say one and done, good job.
We may have to go into post-production and cut this one out, but that's fine. What I want you to do, though, we're going to set you up a little bit more aggressively. So this would be a front pin, a high floater kind of approach shot, probably going to be 6 to 7 yards shorter than that. Okay, but let's get the same setup, but I want you to move the ball position 2 balls forward. Okay, I want you to feel like that right arm is just a little bit higher. So the opposite to what we did on the max draw is we're going to get this one a little bit more level with the left one.
Got it.
Okay, still the same strong grip. And then from there, one squeeze and go.
Might not have the right word. A little bit, not much.
Pretty good, though.
Close.
Okay.
Pretty close.
But you notice, obviously, I moved the ball position forward.
Yeah.
Smash factor went down.
Yeah, we lost a few of those yards.
Lost about 4 yards in distance, but that would be your absolute feather that would come down onto that green and stop dead. Okay, that's your Scotty Scheffler front pin swing. Okay, I mean, Scotty's very good at adapting his setup and hitting all these little shots and hitting them different windows, depending on the pin positions, depending on whether it's left or right on the green. The reason he's #1 in proximity generally. Okay, let's try one more. That was great. There you go.
Softened a lot. That was lovely.
Absolutely. So that's a full 10 yards, maybe 13 yards shorter than the normal.
Yeah.
But we got that ball to stop very quickly. You see our club path is 4.2 left.
Loved that.
Okay, launch direction -2, spin axis of 5 to the right. Just an absolute feather. Smash factor is going to accordingly go down.
Yep.
Right? One thing I think that players need to understand is to be a great golfer, you need scalability. And that's not talked about very much, is how do I take 5, 8 yards off of this 7-iron? Or how do I gain 5 or 8 yards on that 7-iron without necessarily swinging harder? You notice how your club speed was still around 86, 87 miles an hour, but we're getting different yardages based on the setup is producing different smash factors. Now, here's my test for you, is I want to see max draw, max fade, back to back.
Got it.
Little thin.
What I'm loving,
Very
Cowxy, is
strong
like,
draw.
yeah, like the relationship is like every time we're getting launch to the right, spin to the left, launch to the left, spin to the right. Very seldom are we getting the danger one, which
double
is
cross.
the double cross.
Right.
Launch left, go left.
Right.
Launch right, go right. We're not getting any of that, which I love. And that's, I think, predominantly because of how we're setting ourselves up for success.
Exactly right. And you know, that's the thing is we really don't want to have that ball start left and hook or start right and fade. So this keeps us in the ballpark. But that was great. I mean, your club path went from 5 left, 9 right in one swing.
Yeah.
I didn't touch your swing.
Sure.
I touched the setup. So if more players understood this, right, they wouldn't have to monkey around at the top of their backswing and do all these different things that they're trying to do. They just need to learn how to set up well and then spend some time on TrackMan, looking at their numbers, understanding how much of a setup do I need to make to create that flight, or how much the setup the other way do I need to make to create that flight.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see if we can hit the nice high peel right after that.
And that feels just a dream. I start playing all my golf that way, Cowxy.
Well, simple, right? Very simple. And the key is then you just calibrate yourself and say, what do I need to do to produce whatever flight it is today? Right? But it's understanding that when we align these joints and use the inertia of the swing to actually force it in the other direction, we can create these draws and fades very accurately at will. Right? That's a skill.
Really is. 2 shots I don't really honestly have. You know, stand there and hit lots of straight shots, but I get a bit lost on the golf course when I have to start moving it.
Right.
Because I'm so conditioned indoors and I don't spend enough time on a golf course. So I think if I am going to spend time indoors, it's absolutely imperative I spend some time on skill acquisition of managing my curvature both ways. You got to have it.
Absolutely. And, you know, a lot of tour players do like to see the ball curve one way predominantly.
Yeah.
But they do have the skill to move it the other way when they need to.
Right.
Right. And so if we don't practice that, then obviously we get into a situation where we have to, we're very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So we want to be comfortable in all those situations. So we want to work some of this into our practice.
Right.
But we can use that for the advanced player from a skill perspective. We can also use it with the beginning player or the intermediate player who wants to straighten out their ball flight.
100%.
Right. Just by understanding how to line up those joints.
Yeah. Like I feel like I've got so much out of that there. But I also think somebody who's been chronically struggling with a ball flight going left or ball flight going right is going to be like, oh my God, someone just gave me the answer to my prayers. That, you know, I know how to fix this now.
Very simple.
Very simple.
Yeah.
That's honestly, guys, genuinely one of the best tips or sort of cues to how to set up I've ever seen. Genuinely. That's awesome. Very cool. All right, pal. Well, we've got a few more videos together. You guys are going to be very, very fortunate to see some of Scott's sort of knowledge and sort of hear more of his pearls of wisdom. There's a lot more to come, and I think you guys are going to love this series. Thank you, pal.
Perfect.
Awesome. All right, guys, stay tuned for more. We'll see you again soon.